U.S. Marshal's Office, Antoine Massey, who has been known for making social media posts as he's been on the run. He was one of the 10 inmates who escaped from the Orleans Justice Center several weeks ago now. He and Derek Groves were the only two remaining still on the run. But this afternoon, we have learned at WWL Louisiana that Antoine Massey has been recaptured. We just got off the phone moments ago with the U.S. Marshal's Office. They confirmed to us here at WWL Louisiana that he is, in fact, back in custody, that he was taken back into custody in the Holly Grove neighborhood. And investigative reporter Mike Pearlstein is joining me on the set this afternoon. You just got off the phone with them. Tell me what else you know. This happened in Holly Grove, as I mentioned?
Right, in the 9400 block of Strolitz, not far from the Costco on the way to Metairie Road. This was all within the past hour, so this is very fresh news and information. Antoine Massey was found inside of a residence. He was alone. He, according to Brian Fair of the U.S. Marshal Service, he was captured without incident. In fact, he gave himself up once surrounded by law enforcement. This actually came from a Crime Stoppers tip, Katie. So we know that a $50,000 reward had been offered for some weeks now. They had been waiting on tips, in fact, pursuing some of them unsuccessfully until today. This tip panned out. Somebody will be collecting $50,000. It came through Crime Stoppers.
Welcome to the Public Opinion Court, where the truth ain't reality, but opinions are. Listen, y'all, it is over for the freaky Rico trial. Closing arguments have ended. Jury will start deliberating on Monday. But ladies and gentlemen, listen. I had to break that news because it just happened, literally not even 2 hours ago, more like an hour ago, that one of our beloved Frida guys, Massey, has been captured. Now, you know, we did a breakdown of the particularities in the escaping of the New Orleans inmates, but Massey was one of the long-standing. I heard a lot of y'all had y'all parlays, y'all done parlayed, and y'all was hitting on the parlay because Massey was still out. And the last time we saw Massey, he had did a in-house video that he posted. And y'all, to know this man is still in New Orleans, I'm like, y'all didn't have a plan. Y'all didn't have a plan. Like, what was the plan? What was the plan? And the fact that you got ratted out by Crime Stoppers, like somebody in your camp ratted on you, and it probably with somebody y'all came up with this plan to get that money on, and you was like, yeah, turn me in because they ain't gonna stop looking for me, and I'm tired. I'm ready to go back in because I'm ready to get, you know, what is owed to me, which is my freedom. I don't know how that's gonna work, but one of the last standing and one of the only one that is still out is the one that everybody said was gonna be the one that first get caught. Sometimes the ones that are last finished first. So that's breaking news. I covered it. You all have, been entertained by it, but he's turned himself in. Crime Stoppers tip. Somebody getting 50,000. Free the guys till it's backwards, and that's on that. Now listen, the Freaky Rico trial has ended. Closing arguments. Yesterday, we went over the government's argument. Today, the defense had their opportunity to also give their side of their story. And just like I did for the government, I'm going to do the same for you. I'm going to show you how individuals actually do closing arguments, what it's supposed to sound like. What kind of emotion? How do you think the jury is going to take this? in. And I would tell y'all that Detroit girl that I told y'all that said she was up in there doing all them facial expressions, the girl was in there doing more facial expressions today. And this is what I said. All of the defense need is one. The government needs all 12. All the defense need is one to cause a hung jury and a mistrial. I only got clips. I only got important clips that y'all can see, because we're going to break it down tomorrow so that y'all can, give me your opinion. But let's go ahead and get into why we're here. We're here because the defense had their opportunity to make their case to the jury and let the jury know why they feel that they should find their client, Freaky Diddy, P. Diddy, Baby All Love, not guilty. So let me go ahead and bring it to the stage, because we're going to get into it, because that's the only way we can get into it. Hold on, let me bring it to the stage. Hold on. Oh, it's already on the stage. So just like yesterday, I'm about to give it to you just as fair as I did yesterday, because some people would have come for me and say, oh, you ain't fair, but I've been fair this whole time. I keep it neutral. Because you never know when something is going to change the outcome. That's why it's called the public opinion court, where the truth ain't reality, but opinions are. That we keep it real fair over here. And we're going to keep it fair right now, even though some of the stuff that he was saying was a little out there. But it ain't got nothing to do with me. That got something to do with him and his God. Because my God said, So let's get into it. Y'all ready? Because I want y'all to let me know, what are your predictions so far? What are your predictions? What are your predictions? Because I'm going to put a poll up. So I need y'all to let me know. So the defense, Agnifilio. I'm going to just say this. Agnifilio got up there. All you need is one. That's all I kept saying. All you need is one. Because if you needed more than one, Diddy, you wasted your goddamn money. And that's all I'm going to say. Now let me get to this. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this story does not make sense. We're asked to believe that a sequence of coincidences, like Anton in Vegas showing up to her house, just happened. We're talking about Jane, who I can't say her name, so I'm going to say the witness named Jane. But this is the same Anton, the one she allowed into her house. Think about it. Anton is a porn actor. The story she tells defies logic, ladies and gentlemen. It does not make sense. She says she didn't want to do it, but she let him in. She said it was only oral sex. That's why they were trying to get past. Why so much violence, though? Why was Jane violent if she was accustomed to resisting? What was she really doing? She knew there was an investigation. Did she instigate this? Yes. At the end of the day, her story has holes everywhere. You could argue that she prompted it. Maybe she wants something. Maybe she wants a payday. Maybe, I'll never know. Maybe I'll never use that theory. But I'll leave it with you. Why the extreme, unprovoked violence? She never explains it. Now, the government had a choice. They brought you only 2 escorts, the Punisher and Daniel Phillips. They didn't bring you more. They could have, but they didn't. And not one of them admitted to being a prostitute. Think about it. These are their witnesses. And if someone gets paid without having sex, that's being paid for time, not prostitution. In Sean Combs' mind, that is legal. There was no negotiation for sex. You didn't hear a witness say, I was paid to have sex by Sean Combs. That is important. Now, I know you're thinking actors in porn are paid for sex, and that's legal, right? So if that's what Sean Combs thought, he didn't think he was doing something wrong or illegal. That's his mindset. That's the mens rea, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you have to consider. Let's talk about the Rico, the racketeering activity argument that I know y'all confused because we confused. So if you confused, I'm confused. The whole world is confused. And that's what they brought you, something to confuse you that is not clear. Anything that is of confusion should render reasonable doubt. Now let's talk about racketeering. On page 14 of the charge, the law says that the enterprise must be an organized group. Where the enterprise here, was there an enterprise here? No one testified that they were part of a racketeering enterprise. No one said, I was working under Sean Combs as a part of a criminal operation. This is the greatest divide between what the government says and what the evidence shows. There is no enterprise, ladies and gentlemen. There is a gap in lack of evidence, and it's evident. And that brings doubt. Doubt that you can consider in order to render a just verdict. They didn't even charge him with racketeering. They charged racketeering conspiracy. That's a big difference. And a conspiracy requires a co-conspirator. They don't have one. They tried to claim KK, but what does the evidence say about KK? That she is a helpful person. She's a good person. Karen Morgan called KK and D-Rock. They are not racketeers. If John Gotti were coming for you, would you call Sammy the Bull for help? Of course not. That's the point. KK is a nice person, not a co-conspirator. There is only one trial. There is no evidence anyone else was in on this. Guns? He's not even charged with that. Homeland Security does not even know where they were. The Suge Knight story, not charged. Don Richards, not charged. Now, yesterday, the government said you don't see guns in the videos. Then they speculate that Combs just didn't keep those videos. Sometimes 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, it don't add up. The math ain't mathing. Speculation does not accumulate to credible evidence, admissible evidence, relevant evidence. Speculation leads to doubt that you can consider and should consider. That is actually censor. That is unfair. Why suggest something so dark? Why even go there? And let's talk about Cassie. They said she didn't consent, but she's the one who asked to be on. Does that sound like someone who didn't want it? Ask yourself, does that track? Can you trust these prosecutors is the question. And that's a question that you get to ask yourself and come to the conclusion, whatever conclusion that you determine based off of what you saw throughout this trial. That's why you should ask. It takes courage to acquit. That is a big burden that they want you to believe. But it's not a big burden. When you are doing what the justice or just demands in this case, it's not a burden. It's called doing the right thing. But the evidence, do it support this? The government targeted Sean Combs. This wasn't a fair pursuit. If Cassie had gone to Homeland Security, maybe I'll say different, but she didn't. This is America. This is your courtroom. It's your courtroom, ladies and gentlemen. And with that being your courtroom, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to ask you to do what justice demands. Have the courage. Do what's right. Acquit Sean Combs. He is not a racketeer. He's innocent. He is a self-made serial entrepreneur. He's a father. He's a friend. He's a son. And he lived his life to give people opportunities. Do not allow the government, and don't give the government an opportunity to target an innocent man. Release him to his family. And that's literally how the type of emotion you need to invoke. You have to have the high-low passion in a defense closing argument. You want the jury to have compassion for your client, even though they didn't get to hear from your client, even though you are not required to put your client on the stand, because the burden never leaves and never shifts. It never leaves and it never shifts. So you have to have that high-low balance. And that's how you deliver a closing argument. And that's not everything that he said. That's just some of what he said. So let me go over some things that I also caught in his closing argument. He attacks Jane Doe's credibility. He said her story doesn't make sense and it's full of contradictions. Why was she so violent? He wanted to ask that. Why is she violent and she's claiming to be the victim? I mean, that's a good way to kind of say, because the violence did come out of nowhere. Throughout her testimony, I'm like, okay, I haven't heard violence. Until the end. Maybe her motive, he said her motive was in his pockets. He even said, he referenced 50 Cent and said 50 Cent was, did not take care of his son better than his client did. I know that's going to have window shopper 21 questions hot like an STD, I guess. I don't know. He questioned the government's narrative. He says, can you really trust the prosecutors? And let me tell you, a lot of people is probably like, well, why didn't the government get up and object, or why did the defense get up and object? They agreed that objections would happen after the individual's closing, after they either broke or after they broke for in between their arguments, because they didn't want to interrupt, which would cause time, and then you have to take the jury to the back. It implies that the government has an agenda. Yes, I've said that I feel like the agenda is to take his wealth, which I've said to you all I don't agree with. I don't. Leave the wealth out of it. Focus on the crimes. Cassie never went to Homeland Security, weakens her credibility. I don't, but that's an argument that they have to bring forth if they're going to say anything. They dismissed the sex trafficking and said that he didn't pay for it. He said if someone pays, someone is paid but don't have, it's not price. Compares legal porn, like they actors are getting paid. That's what he compared it to. I'm just reading it, y'all. This ain't something that ain't me. Also brings up that he didn't arrange it. We know that is not the truth, but you got to throw out any and everything. This is your last opportunity to be heard by the jury, so you got to come with it. On the challenge in the Rico, they, of course, challenge it by saying only Sean Combs is charged with this. If this is a conspiracy, where are the co-conspirators? Why are they not here? Where are they? Bring them to the front, but they only got him. They said no credible co-conspirators are identified. That calls in for a weakened state of a case. That's what he talked about. They also mentioned no evidence of firearms. Okay, whatever. The Suge Knight not charged. Don Richards not charged. So they are focusing. They said that these individuals wanted justice in a civil court. They wanted money. They didn't want justice like this. So why are we here? Basically, they're saying if they didn't go to the police, why are we here? How does the government get to come in and dictate that someone should be charged with a crime when they didn't come and seek them out? They basically said that is not fair, and that's not justice. So there was something that interesting happened in regards to the not objecting that I want to bring to y'all attention. So the government, when they went on break, what the government called to the court's attention was like, hey, Judge, we need to talk to you about Mr. Agnifilio because he up in here doing what he ain't supposed to be doing. He up in here just lying. He lying, Jonna. He lying. So we need to talk. We need to... Are we cool to talk, Jonna? So they said, Mark has made several improper statements during closing arguments. He said that he asked the jury to consider why the prosecutors charged this case the way that they did. He claimed that the Intercontinental Hotel incident was a misdemeanor. He incorrectly stated that Mr. Combs is charged with arson instead of explaining that it is a predicate to Rico, not a flat out charge. It's not a standalone. It's a predicate. So what they essentially told the judge, I was like, this ain't cool, Yana. You gotta, we need you to go and give a corrective instruction after the break to the jury to let them know that that is not to be considered and that's inaccurate. So the judge did tell Agnifilio, you said it. And what you said was some bull. And you know you weren't supposed to say that. Why would you say that? Why would you say that? The jury is not supposed to speculate, ladies and gentlemen. which is why the judge agreed and said, oh, then I'm going to instruct them to disregard it. And that's how you correct it. Yeah. The government said, Your Honor. And I will, hold on, let me also add, Shapiro's came on the back end, was like, well, they did it yesterday. The judge said, well, you didn't say nothing yesterday. So because you didn't say, I'm going to need you to sit down since you did not say. So sit down. That's why in any case, you're supposed to make sure that you get everything on the record, because the record, it can and will be your friend when you need it to be. So then we go to the government in their closing argument. And in their rebuttal, I'm going to do the exact same thing. And their rebuttal was done by Comey, AUSA Comey. The defendant did not take no for an answer, certainly not from his girlfriend. He beat them. They suggested that he didn't pay for physical relations and that there was no enterprise and that the witnesses lied. But he flew the workers across the country to have physical relations with Cassie and Jane while he pleasured himself. It was not just, they were not just there for conversation, ladies and gentlemen. Do not be fooled. It was physical relations. Remember Daniel Phillips, he said that he got paid for physical relations. When he had performance issues, he stopped getting paid. Sounds like a SMEX worker. The Punisher, $500 when he had no physical relations and thousands when he did. Maybe some of these men would have worked for free having physical relations in front of a masked man pleasuring himself, a celebrity one, but they got paid. Ladies and gentlemen, the defendant is guilty of count 3 and count 5. An enterprise can have an unlawful act and a lawful purpose. The enterprise can have an unlawful act and have a lawful purpose. KK and uncalled witness are equally available for both sides. What they not gonna tell you is what I'm gonna tell you is both sides have equal subpoena power. So you ask yourself, if she is this good person, why they didn't call her? Exactly. Every individual that they named, they had equal access to call and bring to you. As the government, we get to put on our case how we see fit in order to prove the elements that we have to meet on each and every count. And that's what we've done today. Yes, the kidnapping is corroborated by Kid Cudi. He said that Capricorn Clark was forced to go along with them. Agnifilio said that Mr. Combe is a fence guy, sure, when it's his girlfriends, but when it's a man, he pull out that heat. And sometimes you can't come back from that heat. The London Hotel, he made Cassie go into hiding after he stomped her face in. She wasn't allowed to go home to her mom. That is kidnapping. The arson, somehow, ladies and gentlemen, somehow a magic trick appeared and the glove fell off someone's childlike hand. No, he said he would do it and he did it. Cassie even said it. And circumstantial evidence is enough. Eddie Garcia, he believed that he could not go to the police under the agreement. Mr. Combs even said, watch how you spend it. This is the guy that can't get his own water bottle. This is the guy who cannot get his own water bottle or plug in his own cell phone charger, but he's the general. He's the general because he pays for people to do what he wants them to do on demand or suffer the consequences. He has delegates like KK, who knows that the Wild King nights involved escorts. The only reason he needed thousands of dollars in those hotel rooms to pay those escorts. KK reads all of Combs' text messages, so she knew. KK alone makes Combs guilty of count 1. Illegal substances. Agnifilio talked about the conspiracy to distribute, but giving illegal substances to Cassie and Jane is distribution. That is enough. Now, Agnifilio also claims that they wanted it. The defense theory is that Cassie wanted to be humiliated and that Jane wanted to have physical relations with Anton after being beaten. And Mia wanted to be penetrated. That Cassie and Jane wanted to spend days in oil and UTIs and high heels with strange men. Mia said no. Cassie said no on her 29th birthday. Jane said no before Anton after she was beaten. These women have no reason to lie. The defense says it's for money, but Cassie already got paid. She has no monetary benefit to be here. And if she's lying, why risk perjuring yourself in a federal trial? She's standing up for what's right, ladies and gentlemen. Mia already settled in mediation. Jane doesn't intend to sue. These women broke free of the defendant's manipulation. That's why they are here, to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else and to make sure it stops with them. Jealousy is not a defense to trafficking. Jane picked out Cabral and Anton as a way to taking back as much control as she could, yet she still had to text other escorts. Sometimes he told her, sometimes she knew he would ask for it. She felt she had no choice. That's coercion, ladies and gentlemen. The defendant did hit Cassie during freak-offs. Cassie said it, Daniel Phillips said it, and confirmed it. It's on a video. Cassie OD'd, and they still made her do a freak-off after coming out of it. Jane performed oral on Anton after being beaten. That was trafficking. Now, Agnifilio said that Cassie won a prize. What prize? A freak-off with a UTI? That is ridiculous and shameful to even say or insinuate such an awful reality for a victim. He was not intoxicated. He knew what he was doing. He kicks her. She calls security. He stays to keep control. Now, Anton was the only repeat player in LA for Jane. They stopped when Cabral, after he tried to extort Jane. There is no evidence that Jane and Anton conspired. He coerced Cassie and Jane. He R-worded Mia. He beat Cassie. Nothing happened. He bribed the guards. Nothing happened. He believed he was untouchable. But now the voices are louder. Kid Cudi, Deontay Nash, other men came to back these women up finally. And you know what else is finally? The defendant is not God. It's not God. He stands equal before the law. Find him guilty. And that's how that closing argument should have sounded, should have been presented, should have looked, should have just overall been on display. Y'all, it is over. The trial of the century is over. And I don't know about y'all, but that was a lot. So I need y'all to put in the chat, go to the poll, go in the chat and tell me, who do you all think out of the closing arguments that I put on for you yesterday and today, who are you giving the leg up to? The government or the defense? And the title gonna be the lock him up or the defense. No, it's not. Yes or no? No, but I'm gonna put a special title in there so that y'all can select which person, which representation from either the government side or the defense side do you think hit it out the ballpark on the closing arguments? I will tell y'all, Agnifilio was up in there thinking that he was an actor, and it wasn't given. But what else did he have? What else did he have? So one thing that I want to also point out is that both sides have equal subpoena power to call witnesses to testify. The government as well as the defense. If the defense wants certain witnesses there, they would have been there. If they want certain pieces of evidence, it's going to come to them because they are constitutionally, the law requires this. So, but the defense attorneys like to use that all the time. Where are all these witnesses? Well, you got the same right, but they use it. And sometimes it confuses the jury because juries will say, well, where they at? Where they at? Where they at? Where they at? So put in the chat what you all think. The jury come back on Monday. The charge is going to be read. Not the charge, the instructions are going to be read, and they're going to be charged to adhere to the instructions, and deliberation is going to start Monday. I need to get my YouTube subscribers up to 1,000 by next week. 1,000 by next week. Can y'all help a sister out? Can y'all help a sister get to 1,000 subscribers by next week? So that means that I'm gonna need y'all to share, subscribe, like, all those things. Follow. And just as that, I need y'all to go and get this subscription because this subscription price is going up. The price is going up. So y'all need to get it on the low right now. I'm not giving y'all my predictions. I'm going to wait till Monday to give y'all my prediction on everything because I like for you all to do it. So we coming back. We're going to be educating on Monday. We're going to get down to the nitty gritty, the law, the everything so it can be clear because all it takes is one for the defense and you have to have 12 for the government. To convict, you need 12. To hang, you need 1. Now, just like any other time, ladies and gentlemen, listen. You already know what the public opinion court stands for, where the truth ain't reality, but opinions are. I will see y'all when I see y'all, because when I don't see y'all, I'm going to see y'all. I love y'all. Y'all love me. We are a happily family. So y'all have an amazing night. Y'all better make sure them notifications on tomorrow because that video is dropping, but I need y'all to go and get them subscriptions so it can drop to y'all tonight, okay? Y'all have an amazing evening, and until next time.